When they broke it open they found the pit, and bones. So many bones. Men, women, and even children. At the bottom was a large hole leading deep underground. But to understand how those bones got there, you must first hear about Madam Ebele and her old house in Nkaru town. You see, my people, this story happened many years ago in a quiet town called Nkaru, close to the foot of the old Adu Hills. In that town stood one big ancient house, built with red clay bricks and covered with rusted zinc sheets that sang whenever the wind passed. People said the house had been there since the time of the white men, when palm oil and cocoa made families rich. Inside that house lived an old woman called Madam Ebele. She was rich from birth, and when she married, she only married into more money. Her husband had died a long time ago, and she had been living there alone ever since. Old, proud, and full of anger. And Madam Ebele didn't stand straight anymore. Her back was bent like a hook, and she always walked with a carved wooden stick. She wore lace blouses, heavy gold jewelry, and head ties taller than a calabash. She never removed her hair net, which she called a snood, because she believed it made her look like a queen. She wasn't alone in that house. There was one old man called Chukwudi. His father had worked for Madam Ebele's father, and he continued the same work out of loyalty. Chukwudi was kind and quiet, unlike Madam Ebele, whose temper could shake the walls. When she shouted, he would say gently, "Ah, madam, please calm down." And she would hiss, tap her cane on the floor and walk away. One afternoon, Chukwudi invited a young man named Ifani, who fixed security alarms. Madam Ebele's house had been broken into, and she was afraid. "I'm too old to chase thieves," Chukwudi told him, "but madam still thinks I'm a guard." Ifani laughed and agreed to come the next day. When he arrived, the house smelled of old perfume and dust. The air was thick and quiet. Madam Ebele looked him over before speaking. "How much for the full alarm?" she asked. He told her the price and she frowned. All right," she said at last. "Make sure you cover all the doors, even that small one at the back." "The one that leads under the house?" Ifani asked. "Yes," she replied sharply. "That one must be well protected." He nodded, but when he went out to check, he saw that the small door wasn't locked with a normal padlock. It had a heavy metal bolt, the kind used for safes. He shook his head and said, "These rich people and their fears," and went home. The next morning, Ifani came back with his younger brother, Chidi. Chidi had made some bad friends in the past, but he was trying to change, so helping his brother kept him busy. "Bro, this house gives me chills," Chidi whispered. "Relax," Ifani laughed. "The only ghost here is Madam Ebele." Chukwudi greeted them kindly. When Ifani asked him to open the crawlspace so he could run his wires neatly, the old man looked uneasy. "Madam might not like that," he said. "Please, sir, it will make my work better," Ifani replied. The old man sighed. "Let me ask her first." When he came back he looked worried. She said, "It's fine." They followed him outside. He unlocked the heavy bolt and quietly stepped away. Ifani wore his overalls, took his flashlight and crawled in. It was dark, cold, and smelled like wet soil. The air was too still. No rats, no insects, nothing. He started fixing the wires. Then he heard the sound of Madam Ebele's cane above him. Talk, talk, talk. "Are you clean now?" she asked suddenly. Ifani froze. She wasn't talking to him. She was talking to Chidi. "Yes, ma," Chidi answered. "Good," she said. Then, Pam. A loud gunshot rang through the house. "Chidi?" Ifani shouted, crawling fast. "Chidi." He reached the opening just as Chukwudi appeared, looking sad. "I'm sorry, my son," the old man said. "I thought she really wanted an alarm." "What are you talking about?" Ifani cried. Before he could finish, the old man closed the door and locked it tight. Ifani kicked and screamed, but it didn't move. He could hear dragging sounds above him. They were moving Chidi's body. Then Chukwudi's trembling voice, "Madam, please no more. I can't do this again." Madam Ebele's voice was cold. "We're almost done, Chukwudi. Just one more." Ifani crawled deeper into the dark. His flashlight caught a small wooden hatch under the living room. He pushed it open slightly, and froze. Beneath it was a deep pit. Inside the pit, something pale was moving. It had too many arms, too many mouths, and it made a sound like crying and growling at the same time. The smell that came out was thick and hot like blood. The hatch opened wider. Madam Ebele stood above, holding an old pistol. "Why?" Ifani shouted. "Why are you doing this?" She didn't answer. Chukwudi dropped Chidi's body into the pit. The pale thing reached out and started eating. Ifani screamed as Madam Ebele slammed the hatch shut and locked it again. Days later, people started asking about Chidi. Police came, but Madam Ebele said she didn't know anyone by that name. They searched everywhere but found nothing. Then one night, a terrible smell started rising from the living room floor. When they broke the floor open, they found the pit, and bones. So many bones. Men, women, and even children. And at the bottom, a hole leading deeper underground. Chukwudi broke down and confessed. Years ago, Madam Ebele's husband had joined a secret cult that promised them wealth and long life. The cult gave them something, a creature that lived under their house. To keep their riches, they had to feed it with blood and human flesh. After her husband died, Madam Ebele kept feeding it, forcing Chukwudi to help. But that last time the thing had grown too hungry. While police were still in the house, the floor began to shake. The pit opened wide, and before anyone could move, Madam Ebele was swallowed whole. The hole closed back like nothing happened. Her body was never found. Chukwudi died later in prison, whispering the same words over and over, "We fed it too much." And now they say if you pass near the old Nkara house at night, you can still hear a cane tapping under the ground. And if you stay too long, you might hear your name being called, soft, slow, and coming from nowhere.